Hello everyone, so this is the sixth video of the series where I am filling all the forms which are required to sponsor a spouse or partner to Canada. So I have logged into my online IRCC portal, and if you are new then please watch my previous videos to understand that how to create this online account and what are the forms you need to fill for your application. So let's get started with the next form, which is IMM 5532 Relationship Information and Sponsorship Evaluation Form. And you can download this form from the link given here, and it will open in the Adobe PDF Reader software. So I have already downloaded this file. It's an 8-page form, and the form name is Relationship Information and Sponsorship Evaluation. So this form basically requires some of the basic information about the sponsor and the principal applicant. So this form has three parts: part A, part B and part C. Part A has to be filled by the sponsor, part B has to be filled by the principal applicant, and part C will be filled by both sponsor and the principal applicant. I think it is the enough background, and now we will start filling this form. And if you think that in any questions you need to provide more information but you don't have the space here, you can always include a separate letter, mention the form name and mention your part A, B or C, and then write the question and answer of that question. Okay, so personal information about the sponsor, that's me. So I'll write my name, Gupta and Arpit, and I will write my date of birth. So I'll just say any simple date of birth, and client ID. So this is your UCI ID. So I'll just say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. You can find your UCI ID in your IRCC online portal or in your COPR letter or even at the backside of your PR card. Now the personal information about the spouse or partner being sponsored, that is the principal applicant. So I'll write my wife's detail here and a sample date of birth. And for UCI ID, so if the principal applicant had any IRCC application before, whether it is visitor visa application or study visa or work permit, then they would already have their client ID. But my wife did not have any IRCC application prior to this, so I wrote any for my application. Okay, so now we are on part A, sponsorship evaluation and information about the sponsor, and this has to be filled by the sponsor. The first point is about the sponsor's employment history. Starting with your current employer if applicable, give details of your all employers you have worked for over the last 5 years and make sure there are no gaps. If you were unemployed, explain how you supported yourself. And if you were self-employed, write the name of your business and the date when it was established. And use the gross amount before tax for your monthly salary or income, that is for this last column. So now let's fill this table. All the data will be random data, but the format will be same which I used to fill my original application. So this is how I filled my employment history, starting from the most recent one, from and to dates, and then your employment details like your employment name, complete address, telephone number. This information you can easily find in your offer letter or your pay slips. Then you have the occupation or your position at that company, and then at last you have your monthly gross salary, that is before taxes. So this is how I have provided my employment history starting from 2020 to go back to till 2015. Then I have my previous employment detail from this date to this date, and the company name, the address, your city, your province, country and phone number, position, and your monthly gross. And before that I was in India, so this is how I provided my previous employment history from India in row 3 and row 4. So this is the format you can follow to fill your employment history. I hope that this table is now clear. So now let's move on to the next point, which is other sponsorships. So have you sponsored someone else in the past? So I'll say no because it was my first application as a sponsorship. So I'll select no, but if yes, then you have to provide the name of your family members, which whoever you have sponsored in the past. But this section was not applicable for me, and I definitely do not want to leave anything blank. So I'll write NA for all the sections here in just one row. Yeah. Now move on to the next question, which is other financially dependent people. So give details of any other person who is financially dependent on you. So in my case, there was no one. So again, I don't want to leave anything blank. So I'll just write NA. Yeah. The fourth question is about the level of education of the sponsor. So I have done my postgraduate studies and number of years would be 18 here. So this is how we have calculated in India. But if you are from different countries, this number may vary. Now the fifth question is about the address history. So here you have to give your last 5 years of address history without any gaps. So we have already given the address history of the principal applicant in one of the previous forms, and here we will provide the address history for the spouse. So this is how I provided my address history. This is completely random data, but the format was same, starting from the most recent one to go back to 5 years. And you can also see that there are no gaps in those 5 years, starting from January 15 to January 18, then January 18 to July 19, July 19 to January 20, and then January 20 to your present date. So make sure you don't have any gaps in your address history. In case if you are not able to fill your complete address history in these 5 rows and you need more space, then you can fill that in a separate document and mention the form name, number, part number, and you can say that it is question number 5 address history, and write down your complete address there. Next question is about your residence in Canada. This is for spouse. So do you live in Canada? Yes, because I was in Canada when I was submitting this application. But if no, then you have to click here and answer to these questions. Since it was yes for me, so I'll just write NA. When did you last leave Canada? It was not applicable. When do you plan to return to Canada? NA. And where do you plan to live when you return to Canada? So I have filled NA for all these three questions. Now, the seventh question is about your previous relationship. Have you ever been married or in common law relationship with any other person? I'll say no. But if it is yes, then click yes and provide all these details. But for me, nothing is applicable, so I'll write NA. This is how you should write NA for all the sections which is not applicable in your case, because you don't want to leave anything blank in your forms. Okay. Now the next point is about the consent. So is if there is any investigation into marriage fraud about you, do you consent to IRCC and Canada Border Service Agency to release the result to a spouse or partner? I'll say yes. Now next you have the declaration, and sponsor has to sign this form digitally here. Since you cannot type your name in this section, so you have to save this secure PDF as a simple PDF. That we will see in the end, but for now you can just write the date, that is the date when you are signing this form. So we will sign this form digitally in the end. Now let's move on to the part B, and this part has to be filled by the principal applicant. So the first question here we have is, before this relationship, was your sponsor related to you in any way? That is, your sponsor was related to a member of your family, or your sponsor's family member was related to you or a member of a family. But in our case, we were not related, so I'll say no. But if it is yes for you, then click yes and provide the details in the below table. For me, it is no, and I'll write NA for all the sections here. Okay, so next move on to the second question. Do you have any relatives, including aunts, uncles, cousins, living in Canada? For us, no. So I'll say NA because none of these relatives were in Canada for us. I'll just write NA for all these sections. Now the third question is, have you ever been married or in a common law relationship with another person? So this is for the principal applicant. I'll say no, but if it is yes, then you have to provide these details. I'll just fill NA for all these sections. Yeah. Now the fourth point is consent to disclose. So it is same as we have in the sponsor section. I'll just say yes. And then we have the declaration. So here the principal applicant has to sign digitally. We cannot type anything here, so we will save it as a PDF and then do the digital signature that we'll see in the end. And here we will fill the date for on which we are signing this form. So now we are on part C, and this part C has to be filled by both the sponsor and the principal applicant. So this part is based on your own relationship story. So I'll just give you some ideas on how we filled this information for ourselves. So the first question is, when was the first time you met in person? So here you have to fill the date when you both guys met in person. I'll just write the date for myself. It's a like simple date. So you have to write date and you have to write the place where you met in person for the first time. So I'll just write any city name. Next we have is that describe the circumstances of your first meeting. So here you can write how you guys met, what you did, who visited whom, who else were there, and what you both were doing at that time. So just write something based on your own relationship story. Did anyone introduce you? For me, yes, it was our parents who introduced us. Now the next question is, did you have any contact before you met in person? So obviously yes, and if yes, then you have to write the details here, like who initiated the first contact, date of first contact, was it by phone, letter, email, social media, and so on. So here you can describe the details of your first contact in your own words based on your own relationship story. If you don't exactly remember all the details, write as much as you know, and do not make any false story which may contradict to any of your previous details. Now the next question is, are you guys living together? So I'll say no, because I was in Canada and my wife, she was in India, and this was an outland application, so we were not living together at the time when I was submitting this application. And if yes, then you have to give the explanation on this section, but I'll just write NA because this is not applicable for me. And if no, then why not? I'll just write an example for you, that Arpit and Ayushi got married on this date and lived together at their home in India for these many months. Arpit traveled back to Canada on this date, and now Arpit is living alone in Toronto, and while Ayushi is currently living in India. So this is just an example. You have to write your own story in your own words. Now the fourth question is, if you guys are not living together, have you visited each other during your relationship? So the way I interpreted this is that after getting married. So yes, after getting married, I did not visit India and she did not come to Canada. So I'll say no. And here I will provide my explanation. So this is my explanation. Arpit and Ayushi lived together for these many months after their marriage on this date, and Arpit traveled back to Canada on this date as he has to return to his office in Toronto and also had to submit Ayushi's PR sponsorship application as soon as possible. Since they just got married on this date and Arpit returned to Canada on this date, they did not get time to visit each other so far. So this is how I provided my excuse that why I did not visit my wife during the relationship. But it's up to you what you want to write based on your story, based on your situations. But if yes, if you guys visited each other during your relationship, then provide the details here in this table. But I'll just write NA because it is not applicable for me. So the fifth question is, what language do you use when communicating with each other? So I'll write English and I'll write Hindi. So these were two language we were using when we were communicating to each other. The sixth question is, how often do you communicate when you are not together and how? So I'll say that every day on WhatsApp chat, WhatsApp audio, video calls, emails. So you can write how you guys were communicating when you were not together. Now the seventh question is, do your close friends, family and children know about your relationship? I'll say yes because it was a public relationship. If not, then you have to explain, but I'll just write any here, and if yes, then you have to fill this table. So this is how I filled this table. The name of the person, and are they related to sponsor or the principal applicant, relationship to sponsor or the principal applicant, and the date when they met sponsor or the principal applicant. So here I have provided some names, my father name, cousin name, friend's name, and then my wife's father name and her friend's name. Then we have the relationship with the sponsor or the principal applicant and the date since they know us. Like for father, it will be my date of birth, and for my wife's father, it will be her date of birth. Now the next question is, if you are married, then was your marriage arranged? For me, yes, it was arranged. And if yes, for you as well, then just describe it in your own words. And if no, then just move on to the next question. Were there any formal ceremonies or events for your relationship? I'll say yes, but if no, then you have to write the explanation here why not. But I'll just write any. If yes, then fill this table. So here I have filled some random information about the dates, the event, location, number of guests, and who performed this ceremony. Next, we have that did any of the following people go to your events? So let's see. Principal applicant's parent, yes. Children, no. Principal applicants, other family member and relatives, yes. Spouse, sponsors parent, yes. Sponsors children, no. And sponsors other family member, yes. But if any of the people listed above did not participate, then explain why. So I'll just say that neither the principal applicant nor the sponsor has any children yet. The next question is, are either of you pregnant? No. And here I'll just say NA. So the next question is there more information you wish to share to support your relationship? So if you think that you want to provide any extra detail about your relationship which you have not provided in any of the questions so far, then you have the space here. So even though I felt that I provided most of the required information, but here I provided some extra details on how our marriage was arranged, what were the circumstances. I was in Canada and she was in India, how we managed to talk to each other, and when we said yes for this marriage. It's always helpful to provide, some extra details about your relationship so that IRCC know that your relationship is genuine. But it's an optional, and if you don't want to give any extra information to support your relationship, then just write NA in this section. On the next page, you have the declaration from both the sides, from the sponsor and the applicant. So you have to digitally sign it. You cannot type anything here, so I'll just fill the dates here for now. And interpreter is not applicable in our case, so I'll just write NA wherever I can. Okay, so now I have only the signature left. So for signature, I will just save this PDF as a this secure PDF as a simple PDF, and there I can just sign it. So I saved that secured PDF into a simple PDF, and I'll just go to the signature section. So on this page, the sponsor has to sign it. So I'll just click on edit board and type sponsor's name. Then go to the principal applicant section. And in the end, you have to sign for both sponsor and the principal applicant. And here you can just write NA because there is no interpreter. Make sure that you have filled all the required information in this form and nothing is left. And once you are sure that everything is filled, save this PDF form again and upload it back to your IRCC online portal. So right now I am uploading the form which we just filled. Now the form has been uploaded successfully. So yeah, you are done. You have completed the form IMM 5532. So yeah, as you already know that all the details I have filled in this form are totally random, and purpose of the video is only to guide you on how you can fill out this form on your own. But if you have any questions in this, please write in the comment section below and I will reply to you. So that's it in this video, and we have successfully completed the sixth form from this application, and in the next video we will see the another form. So stay tuned and like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.